let's talk SPFBO. If you guys have no idea what SPFBO is, this is the self-published fantasy blog off that is hosted by Mark Lawrence every year. There are 300 entrants, and out of those 300 entrants, they are whittled down into the top 10 finalists. Then the top 10 finalists go head-to-head against one another, where 10 different judges or judging teams from 10 different blogs, YouTube channels, I think there may even be a TikToker this coming year, from all over review these books, rate them, and give them a final score to find out what the best self-published fantasy was of that year. These are not always coming out in the year in which they are submitted. It has to have come out before the entrants open, but it can have come out for years in the past. So when I say the best one of that year, just the best one of that like competition group, it's not necessarily published in that year. And last year I got the opportunity to be a part of SPFBO Cassidy's version, which was basically where a group of us were able to get together, run a competition alongside the official competition, where we just kind of read all of the finalists, got everything together, tallied up our scores to see what the differences were between the two groups. This year, Cassidy was an official judge. I actually got to be a part of her official judging team, which was so much fun to actually make an impact on the books that were selected. I was able to choose a semi-finalist for her to read and consider as her finalist. And because she was an official judge, obviously she wasn't able to do the side competition, so I decided to take up the mantle and created Mel's Takeover. It was so much fun to gather some new booktubers and new reviewers to read all of these finalists and give our thoughts and opinions on them. I do have an official video introducing you to all of the participants, the 9 other people that decided to do this with me. I will link that video as well as all of their channels and social handles down in the description box so that you guys can go check them out, because they are amazing reviewers and I loved being able to see all of their thoughts and opinions and see how their thoughts and opinions were very different from my own. So for the official competition, the winner was Murder at Spindle Manor by Morgan Stang. This one I think was universally enjoyed by everyone, including my own group. It got a 7.8 on the official competition and a 7.1 on Mel's Takeover. For Mel's Takeover, it was actually tied for 3rd place with Hills of Heather and Bone that also got a 7.1. This is a cozy murder mystery fantasy, which I think was one of the things that people enjoyed the most about it. It's one of the things that I enjoyed most about it is it's just different. It gives you Agatha Christie vibes, tons of really good atmosphere, while also just being a lot of fun and definitely having those cozy fantasy vibes. And I think it just appealed to such a large group of people, obviously because it won the competition. Interestingly enough though, the lowest ranking book on SPFBO 9 official was actually Masters of the Void by Wind Raven. The thing that makes this so interesting is this won Mel's Takeover with a score of a 7.4. On the official version, it did have a score of a 6.5. So there was a whole point difference between these two competitions. And I just think that is so cool and so interesting to see how different and wide taste can range and how a different group of people can make an outcome change in such a dramatic way, which honestly is the whole point of running Mel's Takeover. I wanted to give some more exposure to books and to just get more reviews out there, get more people's attention on SPFBO, the official competition, and the books that were entered. And hopefully we were able to do that. Hopefully you learned about SPFBO and will now be able to follow the official competition from start to finish. But I digress. Masters of the Void is a more epic style fantasy compared to Murder at Spindle Manor. It was one of the few that did have a more epic style to it. It is a young adult coming of age type story as well, which I feel like you don't see a lot of young adult epic fantasies. And that's one of the things that made this unique and made me enjoy it so much. I think that for a lot of people, it kind of mixed and matched a little bit too much. And I think that for some people, they loved that uniqueness, and for others, it was just a little bit too much. For example, Deb, Rachel, and Grace gave this an 8 or higher on their scores and made a really big impact on this becoming our winner. But in the flip side of that, Tori and Kitty didn't love it as much, giving it a 6.8 because it just wasn't to their taste. I love the ranges in this, and I just love reading and watching everyone's reviews to be like, yeah, I totally get that. But on the flip side, also being able to be like, yeah, I definitely get that too. I did tend to lean a little bit more on the loving it side. This was one of the highest ranked scores for myself with a 7.8, which is a lower 4-star for me. I thought that this one was unique, was fun. It kept my attention. The magic system was really cool and I enjoyed it quite a lot. And for our runner-up, we had Wickwire Watch by Jacqueline Hagan. The interesting thing was, while this came in 2nd place for us with a 7.2, it came in 7th place for the official competition also with a 7.2. I just love seeing the discrepancies between this hilarious and seeing how things match up so perfectly but are so different all at the same time. This one was the most loved by Tori, Grace, and Deb. So again, it was just cool to see that Tori loved this one so much and it was on the second of ours, but really didn't love Masters of the Void as much, but it was on the top of ours. So again, wide range of taste, and I love it so much. I do feel like I do need to mention it. The last book for SPFBO Mel's Takeover was Daughter of the Beast. This one just did not work for us as a group, but did work better for the official competition and came in 8th place with a score of a 6.8. Mark did a couple of stats on his, which I think were really fun, and I just kind of wanted to go over what the differences would have been if you looked at Mel's Takeover. He looked at the niceys of the group as well as the meanies of the group and kind of mentioned who had the highest average scores throughout all of their books versus the more critical scores out of all of their books. For Mel's Takeover, the niceys of the group, the ones that seem to be living their best life in SPFBO 9 and really enjoying this batch of books, were Deb from DG Reads, Grace from Grace Dion, and Tori from Tori Talks. They seemed to have a great time and their average scores were all over a 7. They were thriving in SPFBO 9. On the flip side of that, our more critical readers, or our meanies, were Sandra, Rachel, and Erin. These are all such critical reviewers, but in the best way. All of them have the ability to give you reasons why they did not like a book, as well as reasons why it might work for other people and find things that they enjoyed. The funny thing is Sandra's scores were actually the lowest on average, but Sandra is just such a bright personality and she does such a good job of giving you both sides of the equation and both sides of the coin that I found it kind of funny when I was looking at everything and was like, oh, Sandra was the meanie of the group, because she does such a good job with balance in her reviews. I personally was surprised that I was not in the meanie group because I do tend to be a little bit more critical, especially in something like this where I am looking at it from more of a critical eye instead of an enjoyment eye. I really try when reviewing SPFBO books to look at things as objective as I can while still enjoying the books. So I can appreciate things from one angle that I know that the book is doing well that might not be to my personal taste versus things that I just feel like aren't as well done, and that's why I'm not enjoying them. So I honestly expected to be more in the meanies group, but I kind of rode right in the middle with this average score of 6.62. And that really does sum up the way that I felt about this batch. I don't know that I found any like super new favorites, although I did really enjoy both of these. These were my top 2. But I think that the competition did lean a little bit more on the cozy fantasy side, which is not typically my preference. However, that is why we have such a wide range of reviewers in Mel's Takeover, because a book that didn't work for me worked so well for other people. The Fall Is All There Is a great example of how I could appreciate what it was doing, but it wasn't my favorite, whereas Deb and Bree loved this book. And I think that that's just so cool. I love to see people finding new favorites. Kitty absolutely adored A Rival Most Vile. I will be shocked if it doesn't, from the way she's talking about it, make it on maybe her best of the year. Don't quote me, I may be putting words in her mouth, but I loved her enthusiasm in her review and how much she enjoyed that book. She gave it a 9.2, which is absolutely incredible, and I'm so thrilled that people were able to find new favorites out of doing this. So I think that that is everything. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. Hopefully you were following along with Mel's Takeover. Will we do this again next year? I don't know. I do know that I will be helping out Cassidy again with the official judging and like finding a semi-finalist. I'm part of her team again for next year like I was this year, and I'm so much so looking forward to SPFBO 10, or SPFBOX, I think it's what it's being called. It was just so much fun to do both the takeover and the official competition, and I don't know, I just love indie fantasy. I think that it is such a hidden gem. Not enough people read indie fantasy, and I just want to shout about it. I want you all to read about it and see it and find some new books that you're gonna love. Let me know down in the comments if you followed both either the official competition or Mel's Takeover, if you read any of the finalists and what your favorites were. I really do want to know down in the comments below. If you just want to let me know that you were here and hanging out, leave me a star emoji for Masters of the Void. One last time, thanking the lovely participants of Mel's Takeover. I will leave the video up here that introduced you to all of them. You should absolutely go check out their channels because this group is incredible and I love all of their videos and all of their content. As always, links to my Instagram, Patreon, Goodreads, and Twitter is all in the description box down below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!